Hello, thank you for joining us on CoreTV News at 7. I am Frank Omalape. Nigeria's President-elect Muhammadu Buhari says he is in full support of the steps taken so far by the Nigerian government to protect the country's citizens from the wave of xenophobic attacks in South Africa. Buhari, who made this statement released in Abuja, says Nigeria's head of mission in Pretoria had taken the right steps by advising the Nigerian community in South Africa to close their shops, stay home and keep out of trouble while ensuring that they obey the laws of their host country, making allusion to efforts made by the South African government to curb the situation. He advised Nigerians in South Africa to, in the meantime, abide by the words of caution extended them by their government representative in Pretoria. Buhari also commended the Nigerian government for its decision to monitor the situation in South Africa and evacuate its citizens at any sign of escalation. Now, the People's Democratic Party has described as provocative and completely unacceptable the xenophobic attack on Nigerians and other foreign nationals in South Africa. PDP National Publicity Secretary Lisa Metu, in a statement in Abuja, says the attacks were outrightly barbaric, primitive, and cannot be justified under any guise whatsoever. Metu went on to say it was unfortunate and disheartening that South Africans, by this attitude, have shown that they are not appreciative of the roles played by Nigeria and other African countries in liberating their nation from the clutches of the obnoxious apartheid system. He said while the PDP was aware that the unfortunate incident was a fallout of century utterances by certain leaders in South Africa, he called on the ruling African National Congress and South African government to take urgent practical steps to stem the tide and guarantee the safety of lives and property of Nigerians and other nationals targeted by xenophobes. President Goodluck Jonathan has confirmed that Nigeria's troops have commenced a final push to take last remaining stronghold of Boko Haram in Sambisa Forest. He, however, wants the United Nations to focus more on helping to rehabilitate people affected by terrorism in the northeast, rather than deploying an international force in the country. President Jonathan said at an audience with the special representatives of the UN Secretary General for West Africa and Central Africa, Mohammed Chambers and Abdullahi Batili, that all UN intervention in Nigeria should not be based on Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, which relates to military enforcement of peace, but on Chapter 8. He noted that the provisions of Chapter 8, which recognize the role of regional bodies such as the African Union in working with the United Nations in promoting peace and security, were robust enough to tackle insurgency in Nigeria and other African countries. President Goodluck Jonathan also told the UN envoys that with the cooperation of neighboring countries, the Nigerian military had already begun regain most of the territories seized by Boko Haram in Yobe and Borno State. And now Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff Alex Bade has blamed the rise of terrorism in some parts of the country on the nonchalant attitude of state governments, especially in the north, to human development. He specifically described Boko Haram activities in the northeast as a revolution against leaders who have failed to ensure the well-being of their people over the years. Marshal Bade, however, noted that the military has risen to the challenge posed by the terrorists and has succeeded in flushing them out of the areas they had previously occupied. The Chief of Defense Staff spoke at a forum put together by Support Our Troops Foundation in Abuja.
Thank you very much for keeping the armed forces in the psyche of Nigerians, to always show or to always remind them that Nigeria is best safe when your troops are motivated, when they are urged on and supported to do their work. Not everybody will agree with you, but we know that majority agree with you. And if you are with the majority, then I think you are achieving the aim of what you are doing. Nigerian troops are very brave soldiers. We have shown it all over the world. We had issues last year, but I think we have promised to never again allow those kind of things to happen to Nigeria. And I know that we are going to keep our word. Very soon, what is happening in the Northeast, we wouldn't say will be history, but we will overcome all the major ones. What will be left are those ones left to criminality. Insurgency, once it starts in a country, you live with it. It happens in every country. You know, domestic terrorism. In America, a young man will just carry a gun and start killing people. That's terrorism. Somebody will go and explode a bomb somewhere. That's terrorism. What more of there be? What less of Nigeria, where people are so disgruntled? All these things are caused by poverty of the mind, poverty of education, poverty of the pocket, all manners of poverty and disease. And it's like some people feel that life is not worth it. But as our democracy grows, I think our leaders, especially at the state level, will see that it is better you take care of the people, otherwise they could revolt against you. And what has happened with this Boko Haram is a kind of revolution driven by hopelessness. I like to call it hopelessness, and that's why they went the way they have gone. Because I cannot see why people would choose to die rather than to live. It must be kind of hopelessness.
Now, the United Nations is convinced that Nigeria is a model for other African countries with the success of the 2015 general election. The special envoy of the UN Secretary General for West Africa, Mohamed Chambers, said this after a closed-door meeting with President Goodluck Jonathan in Abuja. He also maintained that the global body is keen on helping Nigeria and its neighbor put an end to the activities of Boko Haram.
We have come first and foremost to convey to Mr. President the personal best wishes of His Excellency Ban Ki-moon, Secretary General of the United Nations, who has come to have a personal admiration for President Goodluck Jonathan for the exemplary leadership. We have seen, particularly with regard to the conduct of elections, that during his tenure, he has been able to work to deliver two credible, peaceful, transparent elections for Nigeria. The second one, these presidential elections that just ended, have been truly a model for Africa. And I myself, as you know, I've always said that this year will be a year of elections in West Africa. And to have started on such a bright note with Nigeria, giving us a model of what peaceful and credible elections are, is very reassuring for the UN system, and we are hoping that other West African countries which will be holding elections will learn from the good example of Nigeria. Secondly, we have come to discuss with Mr. President the fight against Boko Haram. Boko Haram terrorism is a menace to both West Africa and to Central Africa. And that's why this joint mission of the representatives of UN in Central and West Africa, to see how the countries of Western and Central Africa can better coordinate their efforts to bring an end to Boko Haram terrorism. And in this regard, we commended Mr. President for the achievements that we have seen in this fight against Boko Haram. Mr. President and his government promised that Boko Haram would not be allowed to disrupt the elections, and indeed that was the case. Both the federal level and state level elections were held without Boko Haram being able to interrupt these elections in any way. And on the ground, we've seen that practically all the local government areas have been liberated from Boko Haram terrorism, and their presence is no longer felt in most parts of the Northeast.
While the United Nations team was also in Kaduna, where they urged President-elect Muhammadu Buhari to sustain the gains made by the outgoing government in the war against insurgency. UN Special Envoy Mohamed Chambers told journalists after the closed-door meeting with the president-elect sustaining the victory achieved in the last 6 weeks by the military over the insurgents will give room for the rehabilitation of affected persons. He also assured Nigerians of the global body's readiness to work closely with the incoming administration and commended the president-elect for placing security at top of its priorities. A civil rights group, the Bridge Builders of the Niger Delta, has promised to support efforts by the President-elect Muhammadu Buhari to check militancy in the region. The group also urged him not to abandon the amnesty program and other good initiative of the outgoing administration. National coordinator of the group, Intua Oga, made this known at a news conference in Abuja. They also commended President Goodluck Jonathan for conceding defeat even before the final results of just concluded presidential election.
The amnesties, this is a program that has come to stay, that the militants have all left their camps, dropped their arms, and they have taken some of them for trainings, and some of them are still here in training. The coming administration will always work with this. As he assumes office, it will look at the amnesty in particular. Then what is good for it to sustain the militants that have already dropped their arms? It will always try to do something more better.
General Muhammadu Buhari is the president-elect of Nigeria. He's not the president-elect of a particular state in Nigeria. And so there is no way General Muhammadu Buhari will not want to pick a minister or a leader or any person from Niger Delta that will help him move the nation forward. And if we listen to his acceptance speech when he collected his certificate of return, he said he's stretching his arm to all the people of Nigeria to come together and work with him and see how he can move forward.
You're watching CoreTV News at 7. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more stories. Join us again.
Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on Digi 360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.
For more information on our news and other programs, like our Facebook page is facebook.com/CoreTV News. You can also follow at CoreTV News NG. And also for live streaming, log on to youtube.com/CoreTV. Give a space. Get news. And now the All Progressive Congress in Rivers State has boycotted the House of Assembly election rerun in 4 local government areas. Candidates who contested the April 11, 2015 House of Assembly elections on the platform of the APC say they are not interested in the rescheduled poll. The Independent National Electoral Commission had rescheduled election in 6 constituencies of 4 local government areas where elections were adjudged inconclusive. Leader of the State House of Assembly, Chidi Lloyd, had told journalists in Port Harcourt that the boycott was in line with a court injunction at the Federal High Court, Port Harcourt, and restraining INEC from conducting the election.
We hereby renew our call to the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission to suspend the proposed elections at their court proceedings pending in the Federal High Court, Port Harcourt, seeking to stop the elections. We believe that INEC, having been served the court processes on the 16th of April 2015, wants to ridicule the court and bring the court to contempt by going ahead, should they go ahead to conduct elections when such has been challenged in court. There are no national and international observers available to monitor the elections to ensure that they are credible, free, and fair, as they have withdrawn from their roles and left the state in the wake of horrible violence, bestiality, and disgraceful electoral malpractice recorded on the 28th of March and 11th of April 2015 respectively. To worsen this situation, there has been no official communication by INEC to us and our party, the All Progressive Congress, about the so-called elections due to be supervised by Mrs. Gisela Khan, whose handling of the recent elections have been most disgraceful and controversial. We firmly believe that exposing our good people of Rivers State to further violence in the name of fresh elections is not in the interest of the electorate. We are ready to serve.
And now the People's Democratic Party in Edo State says it will boycott the inconclusive House of Assembly elections rescheduled for today in Orionwa Constituency 2 in Orionwa local government area of the state. CoreTV News presents this update on the party's boycott from Benin.
The PDP chairman of Orionwa local government area of the state, Nosa Ogieva Okumbo, while addressing newsmen in Benin, after an enlarged stakeholders meeting of the party, resolved that the party will not partake in the election because of the alleged flagrant abuse of electoral process.
It was resolved that considering the flagrant and gross abuse of electoral process by INEC, we Orionwa people condemn the manipulation of result by INEC and resolved that in the rerun that is coming up in Ukpato tomorrow, that PDP Orionwa will not participate in that rerun.
The local government party chairman who accused the resident electoral commissioner Mike Igini of colluding with the ruling party in the state, the APC, to arrive at a predetermined outcome for the rescheduled poll.
The resident electoral commission, in a stakeholders meeting held here in Benin, promised all parties that without card reader, there will be no election. In some of the wards, no card reader was used. This same man was present, yet he accepted that result. Even when accreditation was taken in the State House of Assembly election, the result that came was 3 times more than the accreditation, yet the REC in Edo State accepted the result and is now advising us to go to court to challenge it.
The PDP House of Assembly candidate representing Orionwa Constituency 2, Friday Ogeriahi, vowed to approach the court despite his non-participation in what he described as a corrupted process.
And we have come to the sober conclusion that there is no need going on to dignify an already corrupted process, as it will lead, as it were, to a predetermined end, and that is to allot that seat to the APC. You know, so that is the decision we have taken, and for me, it is the best in the circumstance. All of the complaints that we have tabled before the INEC, the Resident Electoral Commissioner in Edo State, he has treated them shabbily. He has also ignored so many of them, when, of course, they are very fundamental. It goes to the root and the foundation on which perhaps they want to attempt to do a rerun election. And I will know, and I'm very confident about that eventually the truth will come out.
It will be recalled that the INEC had declared the elections in the Orionwa Constituency 2 inconclusive in 3 wards out of the 6 wards that make up the constituency, following electoral irregularities and violence in the area.
State Governor Ibikule Amosu has promised the state's civil servants an improved administration and a conducive working environment for all. Our correspondent Olajumoke Olatiji was at the Government House venue of the meeting between the governor and civil servant filing this report.
As a mark of appreciation and to bury the hatchet, Governor of Ogun State, Vikunle Amosu, has approached workers of the Ogun State Civil Service to show his appreciation for their support during the just concluded governorship election, culminating in his victory. He also used the occasion to reiterate his commitment to their welfare, promising them a well-defined administration that will never take them for granted.
I've been telling you that I want to shock you and surprise you. Government, what did I say? Don't let anybody come between us. I will not allow it. If they've had their opportunities. But this is now the time that our workers will know that thank God, so this can happen to us.
The Deputy Governor, Yetunde Onanuga, who also spoke at the meeting, solicited for the support of all as the new administration kicks off in less than 2 months from now.
And as His Excellency has said, I was once a civil servant. I served 31 years in Lagos State. I am part of you. Once a civil servant, so I know that we are going to work together this second term. We are going to cooperate with this government once again, and we are going to enjoy the dividends of democracy.
With this new relationship between Amosu and the civil servants, the workers seems hopeful and enthusiastic. The renewed dawn is indeed here for them. Olajumoke Olatunji, CoreTV News, Abeokuta.
You're still watching CoreTV News live from our Lagos studios. We'll take another break now. We'll be back with stories outside Nigeria. Stay with us.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website, www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to CoreTV Primetime News.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV, leave a space, then News. CoreTV News, our 24-hour news station.
And outside Nigeria now, police in Australia say they have foiled an Islamic State-inspired plot to carry out an attack at a World War I centenary event. Police arrested 5 teenage suspects, charging one 18-year-old with conspiring to commit a terrorist act. The men were planning to target police at an Anzac Memorial event in Melbourne next week. Police says about 200 police officers took part in the counter-terrorism operation in the city early on Saturday. Acting Deputy Police Commissioner Nel Goka told journalists that evidence suggested the suspect had been influenced by Islamic State. One of the men, Sevdev Bezin, appeared briefly in Melbourne Magistrate Court on Saturday. Police say a second man held on terrorism-related offences is also likely to be charged. A third man, also 18, was arrested on weapons charges, and 2 other teenagers, aged 18 and 19, were in custody and assisting with inquiries. Officials referred to possible attacks using 8 weapons, but Corgan says there was no evidence to suggest there was a planned beheading. The men were associates of Abdul Monoman Hadi, a teenager shot dead in September after he stabbed 2 officers, police said. Anzac Day is an annual day of remembrance for servicemen and women from Australia and New Zealand. A series of events are planned for next week to coincide with the 100th anniversary of the landing at Gallipoli, Turkey. Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott has, however, urged people to turn up to memorial event as planned. Well, and that's it on CoreTV News at 7. Many thanks for watching. I am Franco Malape. Join us at 9:45 p.m. for our primetime news.